Dad, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name's Derek Rao. I was raised hunting and fishing. I've done it pretty much my whole life, and it was a goal of mine to raise my boys in the hunting and fishing environment and being in the outdoors and just enjoying life itself.
Now, Dad, would you say Grandpa and then your grandpa, which is Paul to me, were they who really showed you the ropes and got you involved in the outdoors, hunting and fishing? Because growing up at a young age, I mean, you started me, I think you said you took me when I was, 4 and 5 months old to the deer blind once? And
absolutely.
So, I mean, obviously it's something you believe in to start kids young. So I just wanted to know, maybe how you're brought up. I don't know if we've ever even talked about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul and my dad, they absolutely took me at a young age. I was probably going to the deer lease at the age of 4, maybe even a little earlier. I mean, I can remember 4. Of course, I didn't get to hunt back when I was 4 years old, but I did go to the deer lease with them and go fishing with them quite a bit. So, yes, it was a big deal to me for when my boys were younger to get them out in the woods as soon as possible. Actually, you were 4 years old when you shot your first deer.
Oh, yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday.
And everybody said you're way too young to be letting him shoot a deer. And in my opinion, it's the best thing that I ever did.
I mean, you taught me gun safety from a young age. It wasn't like I wasn't supervised with you when I shot that deer. And I remember it vividly at 4 years old. I remember pulling the trigger, the animal going down, going up to that buck. I mean, that was a big deal for me, and what really drove me into this passion that I have for the outdoors and hunting.
Absolutely. Yeah, you were sitting on my lap, and I was probably shaking worse than you were shaking.
Yeah, I'm sure you were, because I couldn't imagine now having a daughter when she gets to go for the first time, the nerves and adrenaline I'll have just for her to pull the trigger.
Absolutely amazing feeling.
Yeah, that is something I look forward to for sure. So the main reason we sat down to talk today was because we killed an elk last year, my first bull. I just want to lead in and talk a little bit about that hunt, and we'll go through all the details from start to finish of it.
Okay.
And just, memorable moments we had throughout that trip, because there were so many of them. So I called you right after tickets went on sale and said, "Hey, Dad, I bought an elk tag. I'm going by myself. If you don't want to go, so will you please go with me?" And you didn't hesitate. You're like, "Yeah, let's go.
Let's get on the road."
And have you ever done any backpack hunting like that before?
Never. I did do a horseback hunt a few years back in Colorado, also elk hunt. But it was completely different because we put all of our pack and all of our gear on horseback and then rode in about 8 miles. Never have I walked in terrain and that kind of weight on my back.
Yeah, and I hope I did a good job explaining to you what was going to happen, because I'd been to that spot before, and I told you, Dad, it's not a terrible hike in there. It's just some rough country. As far as mileage goes,
right,
we're probably only a little over 2 miles deep, but it's just nasty getting in there. I mean, we park on one side of a mountain, you hike all the way up over the top and drop into a little basin where we camped. And I mean, it seemed like me and you, I mean, we did a lot of hiking before, getting you prepared and me prepared, just because we knew we'd have a tough miles.
Yeah, I put a lot of miles on my feet, but nothing compares to going up and straight down.
Yo, it is definitely up and straight down. That spot it's not easy to get in and out of, and I think that's why there's elk in there. I mean, but the preparation we had for that hunt, I mean, you were putting weight on your pack, getting used to carrying a load because you've never done that before.
Nope.
I think we hiked at least every day, if not every other day. We tried to do at least 3 or 4 miles, getting prepared for it. I want to know what your expectations of the trip were, because I've done a few backpack hunts before, so I knew going into it kind of what to expect.
I truly didn't think it was going to be that tough. I mean, it was really tough on the body. Of course, I'm not a spring chicken, and I mean, I didn't want to slow you down. That was my big deal, so I wanted to put in the extra work before we went, so when we did get there, that you weren't waiting on me.
Well, one thing I will say from the start is I was super impressed with how well you kept up, how well we got around. I mean, I don't think we ever had to take a break for too long because you were too tired or I was too tired. I mean, we took some breaks, don't get me wrong. You have to when you're hiking hard.
I did great until I hurt my ankle.
Yeah.
And I still tried to push through hurting my after I hurt my ankle.
You were
but
a trooper for sure. And we'll get into that, you know, when we'll get a little further in the story. But, you know, one of the main reasons I bought an elk tag so late and didn't have any plans on going as kind of a last minute deal was because Kelsey, my wife, was 7 months pregnant when I bought my tag. And when we went, she was 8 months pregnant.
yeah,
That was a little nerve-wracking, I would say. We kind of put us on the clock to go in there and get one killed and get out of there.
definitely nerve-wracking for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, we when we got to the trailhead, we didn't even hike in right away because last year I remember the year before we went that I had service at that trailhead. So I said, Dad, we'll just drive up to the top and we'll get a hold of Kelsey because she had an appointment with her doctor that day,
Right.
and make sure there ain't no baby on the way while we're there.
Right.
And I remember trying to get phone service and we couldn't. We tried for 20 or 30 minutes.
Nope.
You started driving down the mountain. I started walking up the mountain.
Right.
One of us just trying to get a hold of her because her appointment was that morning and we hadn't heard from her.
And after about 35 minutes of trying, I finally got through on my phone. And you were probably 400 yards away from me, and I start yelling, I got her.
Yeah, come running down, talk to her. Got the okay, there's no baby on the way.
Yeah.
And we could, hike in. I think.
And I got to add a little more to that story, too. So I did tell you that if a baby did come, that I was just going to chunk you on the airplane and drive back myself because you were going to be there.
Oh yeah, I wasn't going to miss that. I mean, as important as elk hunting is to me, or even being out there, that was priority for sure.
Yeah.
Luckily, Holly waited and didn't come to the end of September, so now all future Septembers, I still have quite a bit of hunting to get in before her
Let's
birthday.
see. So she's going to be 1 in September.
Yep.
So she's got at least 4 more years before she gets to go with us.
Yeah, I think.
5 years old, I think she can go elk hunting.
Well, if we kill elk as close to the road as we did, I guess then she could come. I don't know about that hike in there.
I bet she could do it.
Well, so we leave out of here, head
Right.
up there.
Right. We were only going to drive about halfway and kind of chill out.
Yeah, because we left in the evening,
Right.
around 6 o'clock our time, which that wouldn't even put us there if we drove straight through till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So our plan was to stay somewhere halfway through the drive up there, and we got on the road, and I think our nerves and our excitement kind of got the hold of us, and we we're like, let's just go all the way.
Yeah, we got into Colorado, and it was probably right when we got into Colorado, probably about midnight, maybe a little before midnight.
Yeah.
And I drank the Red Bull.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You don't drink Red Bull.
No, I don't drink Red Bulls. and I think there's a couple times you told me I need to shut up.
Well, it was keeping me up too. So we got in Colorado and we had the bull and a couple cows across the road in front of us too.
Yeah, a good bull.
Yeah, really nice 6 points. So that kind of woke us up. I started looking on Onyx to see if we were in a unit we could hunt.
And then we get over there.
Around.
Then we get over there at all them switchbacks.
Oh yeah.
And you say if you go off to the left, you're going off about 100, 200 feet off.
Yeah, because I remember going down the road the year before, and we went in the daytime, and you could see. And I just wanted to let you know, hey,
it was,
make sure you're nice and awake through here, because if we make a right turn, we're not coming back from that.
It's probably a good thing it's dark and I couldn't see it because it wasn't nerve-wracking for me.
When we came back, it was daylight. Right. You got to see it.
Right.
It is some a steep drop off the edge.
Yeah.
So we get up to close to where we're hunting, still probably 45 minutes away, and we park at Walmart.
Right.
Because we wanted to get a few things before we hiked in.
Now we parked way away from Walmart in the parking lot.
Yeah, no one was around us. I was like, I'm going to take a quick nap. So I went, got some shut-eye. But someone parked next to us, and you were like, I can't sleep now.
Absolutely.
You were eyeballing them, huh?
Yeah, they when she got out of the car and we parked so far away, I was like,
It looked a little sketchy. I think it was just an employee, but when you drove that long and you're sleep deprived, you know everything.
Yeah.
We had some gear in the back too that needed to get eye kept on probably. Picking up some stuff, and I'm trying to help you. Like, this is what I think we'll need, Dad, because I've done this backpack stuff. You know, you don't want to overweigh your pack; it'll wear you down. You grab a lawn chair, like one of the fold-out lawn chairs.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I told you, I said, Dad, you're not going to want to carry that. It's going to be too much weight. And you said, you're going to be jealous of it when we get in there.
And you were.
I did use the lawn chair.
Yep.
But I didn't like it in there either.
Nope.
So we get the lawn chair. We get some food. I don't remember what. Oh, I bought a bear tag.
Yeah.
I bought an over-the-counter bear tag while we were in there.
Sure did.
Just in case. And then I think we loaded up and headed straight up to the mountain.
Yep.
And then we got into the part when we got to the trailhead where we tried to get a hold of Kelsey, and it took us a minute. I think we
fished for a little while there.
Fished for a little bit.
Yep.
I shot my bow.
Yep.
Everything looked good. Now we got up there the day before season 2. We hiked in a full day before season started.
Right.
And I would say we didn't start hiking in till almost lunch. Wouldn't you say?
It's right about lunch.
Yeah. I think we got our stuff together. We didn't rush. We had, a full day. I didn't want to go scout around too much because it's not a huge basin.
Right. And we didn't want to put scent down.
So we got in there, got to our camp spot, which it was a beautiful camp spot.
Oh, beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
That we camped there the year before. That is one of the prettiest places I think I've ever been. It's right by a high mountain lake. It's real secluded. There's not very many trails getting in there.
Clear water.
Super clear water. We didn't know if there was fish in there. I did hike in a pole and caught one later on in the trip. So I would love to hike back in there. I don't know if it's the best spot to camp for that elk hunt if you hunt that basin.
Right.
I think we found a better spot later. But it is beautiful. It's worth hiking in there just to camp for fun. I would do it. So on our way in, we make the trek up, which it's uphill for half of it because you got to get to the top of the mountain.
Right.
We get to the top. I think we take a little break. We're pretty winded.
Yeah.
And I tell you, Dad, hey, coming down this, it's real steep. It's nasty. We got to take our time. It's basically an elk trail going down. And when you're following a drainage down to this basin from the top, and it's real rocky because we're at the top of the mountain. And I'll let you get into what happened when we made our voyage down the mountain.
Coming down the mountain, and we get to this little flat spot. But at this flat spot, there's a drain that you got to step through, go down and come up. I mean, probably about 4 foot, little washout. And of course, I have my backpack on and all this, and I step up the other side, and there's a tree limb hanging over.
There's it's rocky right there, and there's willow trees all around the rocks. And so when you stop, I had stopped and I had turned around, and it looked like you were just standing still, right? Just standing straight up.
Right. Well, there had a limb sticking out, had caught my backpack, and it was pulling me backwards. And so I went, ew, dunk. And Hayden comes back over to me, thought I done fell out on him and going to have to call rescue. And no, I just fell down. Tree limb pulled me down.
I remember it clearly because, like I said, I had stopped and then turned around to face you, so we could take a little break and talk. And it looked to me like you were just standing still, but when I had turned around, your motion had already stopped from that limb, and so you were stopped, and then all of a sudden you just like fell down flat on your back, and I was like, oh my gosh, what has just happened to my dad? So I run up to you, check on you,
give me a hand, get up,
everything. Now, was this when you hurt your ankle?
No.
So ankle's still good.
Yeah.
I think we take a little break.
Yeah.
We fight through the willows because they're thick, and you have to fight through them to get to where we were going to camp. I think camp is probably a quarter mile past that.
Right.
We get to the lake. This is the first time you see that lake. It's gorgeous, clear. It's just one of those spots that you just dream of staying at for a night in the backcountry. So we set up camp first. We get everything set up. You get your chair off your backpack.
Yeah, I got my chair to sit in.
Which his chair might have been one of the reasons his backpack caught, but we're not gonna.
We're not saying that about my chair.
Not throwing any shade at the chair. So we get every camp set up. Now we started hiking in at 12. I would say by the time camp and everything's set up, it's 4:30.
Yep, about 4:30, 5 o'clock.
That's what and so I'm like, Dad, I don't want to walk around a bunch because I don't want to put scent where we don't need to put scent. I said, but we can walk probably 400 yards and get to some elk trails and just see what, if there's elk sign. It's so high up. I mean, we're almost at 11,000 feet where we camp, that the elk have to travel through certain corridors because of all the rock.
Right.
I mean, they'll cross the rock, don't get me wrong, but a big herd, they're not going to cross it unless they feel
They want to go the easiest path.
Exactly. So there's this cool pinch point. We went and checked.
Yeah.
And last year, the year before we went, 2022, or no, it had been 2021 when we went the year before. That trail was getting used every day.
Right.
There was elk tracks, elk fresh poop, everything.
Yeah.
When we got there wasn't.
Nope.
There was hardly any.
There was some old scat there, but there wasn't much tracks at all.
Not like the year before. And I told you, I said, that's not good. They're not really using this. So we go back to camp. Mm-hmm. The sun, we eat dinner. The sun's still up. We got back to camp way before dark.
Yeah.
It's like 7 something. I think it got dark about 8:30, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I get done eating. I said, Dad, I'm going to bed. I'm tired. We got 30 minutes of sleep at Walmart, maybe. Or I did. You got none. And you're like, it's still sun up. I don't think I can go to sleep.
Right.
So I crawl in, and I think I was asleep before my head even hit my blow-up pillow. I think I was out.
Yeah.
And so you crawled in pretty quickly after. And how long did it take you to fall asleep?
Not very long.
Yeah, we were both asleep well before the sun went down that night.
Yep.
And do you remember how we woke up?
An elk screaming at us?
Yeah, so we're camped at the lake, and usually the way it worked the year before was the wind would come across the lake and blow up to this big rock embankment on one side of the lake, and our wind was good all night. Well, for some reason, I guess our wind was swirly while we were there, and an elk at about 11:30 at night started barking at us across the lake. And had you ever heard an elk bark before that?
No, sir. I never heard one bark.
Okay.
And it was pretty cool to listen to.
Well, because it woke us up because it wasn't far from us, maybe 150, 200 yards. And you're
At the most.
You're like, what is that? And I said, that's an elk barking at us.
Yeah.
And so that kind of got us a little excited. Like, okay, there is some elk in this basin. Open in the morning is close. We're hearing elk. So it took me a little bit to go back to sleep. You were asleep pretty quick after she shut up barking at us, or he. So we go back to bed. I finally get to sleep. We wake up, and do you remember what we did the first morning?
Yeah, we hiked down back to the corridor where we thought they might be traveling through, and then went up side of that draw.
Because I figured that trail gets used as an escape route, because that trail goes into the other basin.
Right.
And so that elk barking at us, I was like, well, maybe if she's going to push, or that herd's going to push to that trail. So we go check. I think we sat there for a little bit.
Yeah, I took a nap there.
Yeah, you slept there. We let the thermals change because it's a good spot to sit early, because the thermals are pushing down into a meadow below where you would see an elk. The thermals switch, and we work our way up the basin into another draw.
And we did find some elk sign in there.
And in the year before, me, Kelsey, and Colby, when we were there, that's where we got on our elk. We had a bull and a cow in there, and almost had an opportunity, called them in, wind swirly in there. So we checked that, no elk. I'm like, all right, whatever. We think we go back and sit the corridor at the night time when the thermals change, and then we go back to bed.
Right.
And then we wake up again by the elk about the same time, about 11:45 at night.
Yep.
We get elk barking at us. And I said, well, I know where we're going in the morning. We're going to that side of the lake.
And that was way, way rougher than anywhere else we've been.
So we wake up, we decide we're going to go to the other side of the lake where the elk was barking, which we hadn't been over there.
Nope.
I knew it was rough over there. Now, when I say rough, you can't walk.
No.
There's one trail that goes around that little knob, but if you want to, you can't drop off. You can't.
The laydowns are what's just absolutely crazy. There's just so many laydowns in there that you have to crawl over, and then you get about 4 feet and crawl over another one. I mean, it was just so rough.
People are going to hear this and be like, "Oh, I hunt laydowns." I've hunted other areas with laydowns. That spot, it's the steepness of the mountain. It's a multitude of things that it just makes it impossible for a human to really traverse like reasonably.
Right.
I mean, it would take us hours to climb down that hillside there.
For sure.
And that's probably why the elk are living there, but they're going to get to live there because I just don't see any human being able to get in there.
It would
hunt it effectively.
Well, it would be so tough to get one out of there. I mean, not saying you couldn't do it. You would just have to really, really want to, especially being just you and I.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're crawling through stuff. So we make the loop. I'm like, this is pointless. I talk to you. I'm like, why don't we load up camp? We're not seeing as much elk sign as I would like to see. Let's move to the west. We'll go through the pass that we've been sitting on, that little pinch point. Mm-hmm. We'll drop into the other basin. I said there was elk sign there the year before too.
Right.
So we load up camp. It's around lunch.
Yep.
That's when I did a little fishing, caught the fish. So we load up camp and we make the hike through. So this would be Saturday. Season open Friday. Mm-hmm. So Saturday we hike through. Mm-hmm. We go through the pinch, and there's a nice little wallow on the other side that was getting used the year before. It hadn't been touched. Right. Nothing has hit it. And I was like, well, no reason to stop here. Let's keep pushing on to the west. So we're taking the ridge. We go west. We get to a small bench, and there's some elk sign. And off that bench, it had the little valley that had a trail that you could tell was getting used.
A lot, yeah, a lot.
There was elk tracks all over that trail. Mm-hmm. And I looked on Onyx, checked the area out, and I remember there was a bench above it on the other side, a big bench.
Right.
And I told you, I said, Dad, if there's elk, use that trail, they're probably bedding on it.
We had just called.
Yeah, we did a call-in sequence. I sat on the one bench and did a whole call-in sequence just in case they were bedded on that bench too. And we waited pretty good time after I stopped calling. I would say we gave it 45 minutes.
Absolutely.
And just to make sure nothing came in silent, do our due diligence on that. And I was like, well, Dad, let's just push up to the other bench, and when we get up there, we won't, blow in there. We'll just ease in, get set up, and we'll do another call-in sequence, because I just, in my head, I knew there was elk up there.
So we get up to that second bench.
Well, let's kind of explain how the land lays out there, too. So the first bench is there. It drops off into a little valley.
Right.
There's a rock slide that goes up that chute.
Pretty steep.
Oh, it's real steep. But the elk trail crossed right at the bottom of the rock. So we drop down off our bench, head towards the bottom of the rock so we can cross the elk trail, so we don't have to cross the rocks. And we start working up the elk trail up to the other bench.
And it's pretty steep going up.
Real steep.
Until you get to the second bench.
I would say it was 200 feet of elevation.
Absolutely.
That we had to go up. And
absolutely.
In a short, it's not a long stretch. It's straight up. So there's little flat spots where the elk had wallowed out. So we'd walk, 20 yards and stop and take a little breather on all the little flat spots. And, that trail it just makes you tired. It's steep.
For sure.
So we finally get to the top, and instead of just walking up 3 or 4 steps, I take 2 steps onto the flat bench.
Right.
And you step up right behind me.
Right.
Which typically no big deal, right?
Right.
We'd have some time to sit there and I don't think we were up there 10 seconds.
Right.
And the sound of hoof prints coming running down the mountainside.
Well, I truly thought the cow was going to run over you.
Well, yeah, so the trail comes up and it makes a little bend around a tree right at the top of that bench, right where we stepped up. So there's only 5 feet of trail before that tree, and then the trail cuts left around it. And I can't remember, I think you saw him first, and you said, elk. And I look up, and here comes a cow and a calf
right at you,
sprinting down the trail that we're on.
Right.
And if she hits us, we're getting kicked off that steep stuff, and it's a long ways to the bottom.
Oh, I know.
I see her, and I just start knocking an arrow, trying to get an arrow knocked. I get it knocked. She, of course, comes around the tree, sees me at about 5 feet, throws the brakes on, tries to figure out what the heck's going on, shoots off down the bench, and then another cow stopped 10 yards just on the other side of that tree. So I come to full draw because I would have shot a cow. I really would have.
Well, there were 4 cows and a calf.
Yeah.
Right at this point. At this point, yeah. At this point.
That were all within 15 yards of us.
And then the bull.
Yeah, and you said, I remember it because I come to full draw, hoping she would step down and maybe get a shot. And you said, there's a bull. And I pull off my peep and look up the mountain, and he's 35, 40 yards away.
Coming down at us.
Because he doesn't know what's going
No.
on. He just knows his cows are busting out of there, and he's like, what the heck is happening? He actually turns and runs out onto the rock slide, 20 yards broadside.
But you had one tree in between you and him.
And I could see everything from his shoulder forward.
And I could see everything where I was. So you needed to be where I was
If you had
at.
an elk tag, and you would have been bow ready, drawn, you'd have shot him no problem. I mean, he was 20 yards.
Right.
So I'm full draw. I go to take a step back to shoot him. Well,
Step back?
The problem is we're so tight because I hadn't walked up the bench far enough that when I step back, I hit you,
Well, there was a 6-inch tree that saved my life.
and I pinned you against that little sapling. And I remember being mad, like, Dad, move, and I'm pushing as hard as I can.
Thank God for that tree.
And the elk's just standing there at 20 yards, and I'm leaning, pushing, trying to get you. And the way the trail's set up right there, it's not like I could step forward and back.
No.
And I mean, it's happening so quick, too.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say there's a little 6-inch sapling that saved your life, because I'd have pushed you off that mountain for that. He was a nice 6 point.
I thought I was going off the mountain, to be honest with you.
So, about after 4 or 5 seconds, that bull's like, okay, something's
Yeah.
up. He takes off.
Yeah.
I was pissed. You were pissed. I think, did you feel like you let me down?
I did.
Or-
I did. I mean, I couldn't go anywhere. I was pinned up against a tree. I was trying to get out of your way. But if I would have took a step to the right, I was going to go 30, 40 foot off the side of the mountain.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I calmed down pretty quick, 30 seconds
Yeah.
or so. I had my.
But I was still beating myself up over it.
And I could tell. So I was like, Dad, look, it sucks. I'm mad. Not your fault. There's
Right.
nothing we can do. They caught us off guard. It was a weird situation.
Right.
I mean, elk hunting, that's how it is. Like, little bitty things like that separate you getting a shot off on a bull and killing one or not. The Counter Colorado, you just don't know how many opportunities you're going to get either.
Right.
So it was pretty, like, we were both down pretty bad at this moment. I mean,
And we were both tired. We were both wore out.
yeah, we were tired. We hadn't slept much.
Right.
We were just angry that we just blew an opportunity. I just keep remembering in my head how irritated I was that it was just an elk at 20 yards,
And-
full draw, everything was fine.
And I was wishing I would have stayed back down on the other one, but I didn't know at the time.
Steep.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was just a bad situation. But I think, looking back, it might not have been the right decision at that moment, but we were just so irritated and mad. We kind of power hiked out of there. And when I mean power hiked, 4.5 miles to the truck, and we basically never even stopped and hunted again. We were so mad. I was like, I just want to get out of here. We blew the elk out. And honestly, we probably could have stayed in there and hunted for another 2 or 3 days and been all right. But hindsight, it's 2020. We killed a bull. But
Right.
so we hike out of there. It's terrible getting out that way. And I told you, it's probably just as bad, if not worse, going that way to get up and over the mountain again.
And then that's where I hurt my ankle when we were going up the big steep
Okay.
mountain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
After we had already seen the first bull,
okay.
I was stepped up on a rock and rode my ankle over, and I was like, well,
And we were seeing elk sign the
Yep.
whole way out.
Yep. Yep.
So they were in that drainage. I mean, we should have hunted there, like, looking back, but we just.
but it all worked out in your favor.
Exactly. But when you're mad, you make weird decisions.
Right.
So we hike out of there hard. We don't stop much. We get a couple hundred yards from the truck. I start throwing up from exhaustion and we pushed ourselves too hard.
Right.
I mean, by the end of it, we were.
I was going to get the truck and come get you, but you didn't want me to. You wanted to make
I
it.
said I'm gonna get out of here. So we get out.
Mm-hmm.
Your ankle's hurt. I just thrown up. I'm feeling kind of lightheaded. I don't know if it was altitude sickness
Mm-hmm.
or what. We get to the truck. There's way more people at the trailhead now.
Oh.
Campers. This is Labor Day weekend, so
Yeah.
there's campers,
Yeah.
people swimming, fishing, a few hunters. We talked to a few, but really not that many. 2 groups.
Yeah. Two.
Which there was a group of.
Husband and wife and 3 kids.
I think I had 4 kids.
Well, 4 kids.
And 2 of them were young,
Yeah.
and they're all wearing Crocs.
Yeah.
And
And they grab their bows and take off to go make
they
the
tell
same
us they
loop.
were going where we went. And I was like, well, wow, we made me feel pretty bad. Like, we're kind of sissies if they're going up in there
With Crocs.
with Crocs after we done rolled our ankle, fell, thrown up.
Yeah.
So I think this moment we're like, let's just go into town. We'll get some food. We'll just try to get our minds right, and we'll go try a different unit, just the bordering unit. So we go into town. where the hotel we usually stay at booked. So we have to drive another 30, 40 minutes to a different town. And we get a hotel there. I don't think we hunted that evening.
No, we went and looked. We went and looked at off the road. We didn't get out and
Yeah,
hunt.
we checked some stuff close to the road.
Yeah.
We go get our hotel because you need to ice. Your ankle's bad now. It's
swelled up.
It's to the point where I'm like, we can't hunt tonight.
Right.
So you ice it. We wake up the next morning. We only got that hotel for one day.
Right.
We drive back to where we were hunting, but we hunt the unit,
Right.
the adjacent unit. Now that unit's totally different topography than where we went the first time.
For sure. A lot taller trees.
Aspens. It's so the undergrowth is way more open. There's cattle in that unit. There wasn't cattle in our first unit.
Right. And we made a big loop. A big loop.
4.5 mile loop.
And we've seen some elk sign, not a lot, but some.
Well, so the way it sets up is there's a bunch of aspens on all the ridges, and then the valleys that run down the mountain are good timber.
Right.
Pines, some deadfall. And I told you, I said, I like this area because there's not as many elk, I think, as where we hunted the day before, 2 days before. But I think if there's elk in here, they're going to be concentrated in those draws.
Right.
So we make our 4.5 mile loop, and your ankle's hurting you the entire time.
Well, we did see a good mule deer in there.
Yeah, there was
Some good mule deer buck in there.
We did see a good mule deer. We saw a little bit of elk sign, but again, not enough.
Yeah.
A lot of cows. The cattle kind of ruined it for me.
By this time, my ankle's killing me, but I don't want to let you down. And
yeah, and we hunt almost till 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think we got out of there about 2.
Yeah.
And you finally told me, like, son, my ankle is in bad shape.
Yeah. By then, I was in some pretty good pain.
We get to the truck, we take your boot off, it's swollen bad. You're limping around on it. And I said, Dad, let's just go back into town. We'll get another hotel room tonight. You need to ice it. We'll see if we can get the swelling to go down.
And we went back and got us some food.
The hotel room that I wanted to stay, or the hotel I wanted to stay at, had a room.
Yep.
So we got that.
Yep. We went and ate, and then I iced my ankle.
And so now it's like 4:30.
Yep. And you wanted to go,
and I said, I'm not wasting another evening.
Right.
Let's go check. I got on Onyx. I checked. I found this really cool north-facing slope with a little bit of bowl, and it was only 0.7 of a mile off the road. I said, Dad, I want to hike into here. I said, I don't know why. It looks good on a map. Something's just calling me to this spot. I almost felt like. So we drive up there, which is only a 30-minute drive from town. Park. There was tents actually right kind of by where we parked, but they're all blown down. I was like, I don't think anyone's in here.
Yep.
So we hike in. I remember we took the ridge. We did.
We stayed up on.
The way that spot worked, there's a ridge to the west, a ridge to the east. The valley ran down between,
Right.
and it was open meadows with a creek and down the valley.
Right.
So we take the ridge and go through the trees.
Yep.
And I think we were only 400 yards in when we started seeing elk sign.
Yeah, we seen the first elk track probably about 350, 400 yards in, and it was a good track.
Yeah, and when I say this is off the main road in the unit.
You could still see the main road when we seen the first track.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean it was the main road. So we hike down the ridge, keep working. I said, let's get to this first north-facing slope that I wanted to look at. And the closer we get, the more elk sign we see, the more elk sign we see, the more elk sign we see. And I'm like, wow, this is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And we get to almost the exact spot I dropped an Onyx pin where I wanted to like really start hunting. And you saw it first. And you said, hey, look at that wallow.
And we need to hunt this.
So we see the wallow, we're up above it. We come down off the hill onto a small little bench there where the wallow's at. There's willow trees. And every tree had been raked. Every branch on almost every tree had been broken. And there was mud slung everywhere.
And you could tell it was fresh, and they've been using it that day.
Smell elk. That wallow you could just tell was getting hit every single day by multiple bulls.
Yep. And so we decided we were going to set up on it that night.
Yeah. Well, your ankle's hurt, and I didn't want to hike any further. I said, we're 0.7 of a mile off the road. Let's set up on this wallow. Set the rest of the evening. We only have a couple hours. I don't want to. we're in good elk sign. I don't want to put my scent where my scent don't mean anything.
And 2 mule deer bucks come in.
One giant mule deer, which I may be putting in for some archery tags, and we're going to sit the wallow for a mule deer. I don't know if it'll work.
Well,
we saw 3 good mule deer all in total at that wallow,
right,
which was pretty crazy.
Right. But 1 giant.
Yeah, 1 big one.
Yeah.
So it gets dark. We hike out of there, go to the hotel, go to sleep. We wake up the next morning, and your ankle's still killing you.
Plus, I didn't want to put all the scent down in there
to mule deer
smelled us.
2 out of 3 actually had winded us.
Right.
Which was weird because the wind was good the entire time we were checking it. But somehow, I don't know if I think personally they smelt where we walked.
Probably so.
And came down because they were kind of in that area.
Yep.
Because our wind was good. So you tell me, son, I don't want to go. I tried to talk you into it a little bit, but I didn't want to make you feel bad or anything. So
I just thought you'd have a better opportunity and a better chance to kill an elk without me putting more scent down.
Yep. So I take our truck, drive up there, park the same spot. It's dark. I get there an hour before sunup. But in my mind, elk were going to be in those by the creek and the meadows eating. So when I say I walk in slow, it took me almost 2 hours. 2 hours. It took me 2 hours to get to the wallow. I mean, I'm creeping. I'm walking 100 yards stopping. I get to a good spot where my wind's blowing into the creek, and then the creek's taking it down. So unless an elk's in that creek, I shouldn't get winded.
Right.
And I'm probably 200 yards from the wallow, 250 yards below it. And I start hearing stuff. Branches popping, all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, oh crap, there might be a herd up there. So I'm like, I'm not going to that wallow until I can see my peep. And it gets light enough I can see my peep, and I start still hunting my way to that wall. I'm taking a step, glassing, 2 or 3 steps, glassing, really taking my time getting in there. What I didn't realize is everything I heard popping was cattle. We realized that on the way out. But the cattle helped me because it slowed me down, and that's the only reason I killed this bull. So I get up to the wallow, and there's the little tree thicket we sit in that's probably 35 yards across. And I get about 10 yards into it, and it's loud. I mean, every step's crunchy from the tree leaves and just pine cones. It's a loud. I get 10 yards into that loudness, trying to be as quiet as possible, and I look up, and above the wallow is the ridge, and I see an elk up there. And I'm like, oh gosh, they're here. There is a herd up here. In my head, there's a herd. And I pull up my binoculars and I scan the whole hillside, and I only see the one elk. And I can't see if it's a bull or a cow. All I see is it's from its hips back. And I start easing up real slow, trying to be quiet, but I'm still making noise. But there was a decent breeze, so I think that helped me. I was still 100 yards away at this point. I make it the extra 20 yards I need to get about. I'm still 10 yards inside the tree from the opening where the wallow is, and I'm about 60 from the bull when I realize it's a bull. I mean, I get up there, he turns, he's just feeding up the hill above the wallow, and it's a bull. Not a giant, but a legal bull.
Yeah.
I have an arrow nocked, I'm ranging him, he was at 60, he's feeding down. I'm thinking, oh, he's coming to the wallow. So he goes behind a tree, I make a little move to the left, I set up to shoot him at the wallow. But I have it where there's one little lane going up the whole mountain almost, or that hillside, that I could shoot him if he crossed. So I'm set up in the perfect spot, and I range him at 55 yards. So I dial my pin to 55, I shoot a Spot Hogg Fast 80 XL, so I have the 2-pin. So I set my top pin to 55 yards. The bull feeds out just as I can see his neck and his head in the opening. And I'm getting ready to come to full draw, and for some reason that bull turns and walks straight back into the trees. And I'm a little nervous. I'm like, is he going to leave? Is he going to stay? I don't know. I'm just worried. I'm like, did I blow another chance? Like, should I try to just make a move on him? Luckily, he fed straight up the hill. I could see a well-used trail in front of a tree. I ranged it. It was 65. I didn't even have to move my pin because my second pin was at 65 yards. My top one was at 55, bottom one at 65. And I come to full draw when I see his head step in the opening. He steps out, I'm getting ready to stop him, and he stops on his own perfectly broadside to feed in the opening. I settle my pin, I have plenty of time. I remember squeezing through the shot, my bow breaks open from my release, and I watch the arrow. So I'm 10 yards inside the trees. As soon as the arrow hits that opening between me and the bull where the wallow is, it kicks. I can see my fletchings kick left from the wind, and it happens so quick, but it seemed like minutes that arrow takes to get to that bull, and it kicks left. It comes across the opening. When it hits the trees on the other side, it redirects and straightens back up. And I shoot a bright orange fletchings, and I watch it just sink right behind the shoulder. That bull runs. I pull out my phone. I start videoing. I'm going through like I just shot a bull, and I think I hear him crash. And I say it in the video. I'm like, I think it just crashed.
Yep.
So I'm 7/10 of a mile from the truck. I give it maybe 5 minutes before I leave, and I don't go up to where the bull was at all. I just haul butt to the truck. And it takes me probably 2 or 3 miles of driving down the mountain before I get service. I call you and you don't answer.
Right.
Because you told me, just call me when you get
My phone was still on silent.
If you need something, call me.
Yeah.
So it's so early. I shot that bull at 7:30 a.m. in the morning. I call Kelsey. Kelsey answers. She's happy. Everyone, I've been elk hunting for 3 years. I'd wounded a bull my first year elk hunting. So it meant a lot to finally... I knew the bull was dead. I mean, I watched for the arrowhead. I was like, that's a dead bull. I call Grandpa, tell him that I killed a bull, and I'm still talking to him when you call me. Now, I do feel bad about what happened next. Well, I'll let you kind of...
You don't feel bad about it. You don't. You thought it was really funny, but it really wasn't.
I thought it would be funny, and then I felt bad about it.
So you tell me that you stepped in a hole.
And twisted my ankle.
Twisted your ankle, and you said you think it might be broke.
Yeah, I said it's swollen up. It's my right ankle. I'm driving with my left ankle. And I'm trying to add little.
And it took you 2 hours to get back to the truck, and you just
the time frame would worked out perfectly.
And it took you that long. Well, by now I've got tears in my eyes. I'm not going to lie, because the whole reason I wanted to go to Colorado with you was to make sure if something did happen, I'd be there for you.
So I tell you that you feel bad. I'm like, son, oh man, and I can tell in your voice you're upset. I get to the hotel.
Yeah.
I open the door. You're sitting on your bed, head down like this, between your knees, basically.
Yeah.
Puppy dogging.
Yeah.
I'm so excited I couldn't hide the excitement. I'm smiling. I got a shit-eating grin from ear to ear. And you look at me, and I remember your face. You just go, no.
You killed one.
And I said, yeah, you ready to go pack my bull?
Yeah.
And then we hugged. Everything was good. You were a little irritated with me about my joke, but not too bad.
No.
We load up. Haul butt back up there.
All right. We emptied our packs.
Yeah, we emptied our packs.
Yeah.
Took a little bit of water, my game bags, and some knives, tags. That was it.
Yeah.
Hike up there. Now, I shot the bull at 7:30. I think we were back at him around 10-something.
It was right before 10.
Okay, so we got to him right before 10.
Yeah.
We go up to I show you, go the whole spill I just said, through the trees. I'm showing you where I shot.
You go up and show me blood.
I show you where he was at when I shot. There was blood immediately where he was standing when I shot, which was good.
Not a lot, but there was still good. There was blood. Yeah.
Now, 5-10 yards, we couldn't find any.
Right.
I had thought he'd went up. There was 2 trails.
Right.
One that was heavily used. I said that he went right up that. Well, you started trailing, and you're like, I don't see any blood.
Right.
And I'm looking, I don't see any.
So I started working up the ridge.
Yeah, because that way you could look down. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to drop down that other trail. I dropped down 10 yards of that trail, and immediately blood, and lots of it.
Right.
And you were up in front of me a little bit still because you kept walking as I dropped. And I remember like, Dad, there's a lot of blood. Like, this looks good. And you're like, why don't you walk up here and look at your bull? And I remember running up there and just seeing the orange fletching still sticking out of that bull. And, you come down, we meet, hug. Really cool moment.
Very cool moment.
Very cool for someone who raised me hunting and taught me. It was kind of cool just to bring you on that experience and actually get my first bull with you, because that animal meant so much to me.
Yeah.
So we take our pictures. We set up the phone, do a little video so we can get pictures of me and you, and we start breaking down the bull. Which, what sucks for me is I'm allergic to deer hair and elk hair, and So you break down the bull. I'm doing what I can. I'm holding the leg.
Yeah.
I just don't want to have a bad breakout.
I know, especially in there.
And so you break down the bull pretty quick. And we had the elk completely packed out. We did 2 trips. It took us 2 trips. We had them completely packed out by 1 o'clock.
Yep.
We were back at the truck at 1:30 with the last load.
And we cut all the rib meat off. We cut. I mean,
we took
cut
everything.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing went to waste
Yep.
on that bull.
Yep.
So we get back to the truck. We are worn out. The first trip out of there, you were hauling your first load of meat, which you've never hauled meat on a backpack.
Never. And it was. I kept saying, Hayden. I said, I'm dying. He said, well, what's wrong with you, Dad? And I said, I don't know. My hips are killing me. And he comes over there and he tightens up my waist belt. Made it a world of difference. Got all that weight right off my hips. So, I mean,
I tightened your shoulder straps and loosened your weight belt a little bit, so it kind of evened the load out.
Yeah.
Because you were carrying all 80 pounds or whatever you were carrying on your hip.
Yeah, and it was killing me coming up and down them mountains.
So we get that situated.
Yeah.
It took us, like I said, 1:30 the bull's out. We got to him about 10. We have him completely broke down and out of there at 10. That's one good thing about shooting the bull close to the road.
Yeah.
With only 2 people, we got him out of there pretty quick.
Yeah. And did it all in 2 trips.
Yeah, 2 trips.
Yeah.
So
Head and all.
Which I'm sure there's people out there that can do it with 2 people 1 trip, not us.
No,
That was
no.
the max for me.
No,
It's a lot of weight.
I think
Uphill both
I
ways.
think next time I'll take 3 trips.
So we get the bull, put in the truck, get phone service, call Kelsey. She's still excited. Ask her, hey, good thing Holly didn't come,
Yeah.
which is my daughter. So we make the trip home,
Oh yeah, we didn't even we went to the motel room, loaded everything in the truck,
checked out, and
hit the road home.
hit the road.
Yeah.
We were ready to get back. I shot that bull on Labor Day, so it was Monday.
Yeah.
And we made the trip home. Stopped at Jeremy's house, which is my boss, your best friend
Yeah.
from high school. Show him the bull because he's been elk hunting forever. He was super pumped. He was showing me calls. He was getting ready to leave. I think he was leaving that day or the next day.
Yeah, I think the next day he was leaving.
Got him fired up about it.
Yeah.
And we get home, and as soon as we get home, we start cutting some meat. And
Yeah, we start making hamburger meat. We start
cutting backstrap, getting it freezer locked, and we got the bull taken care of. And I just remember once we got him close to done, just hugging you and telling you thank you for coming with me and helping me on that. I don't even know how many times I said thanks for helping me.
Yeah, a bunch. But it's a hunt I'll never forget.
So in closing, did you enjoy the hunt?
Absolutely.
As much as you thought you would, if that makes sense.
Probably more.
Okay, because I think you had a little bit of concern.
I did. You know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. You know, I didn't know if I could keep up with you, and I didn't want to slow you down. I didn't want to put you in a position where I hampered you from getting an elk because I couldn't go there or be there with you or whatever. So once we got there and once I got to experience what was going on, I felt like I did a pretty good job on keeping up and not slowing you down too much.
The one thing I gained from it for sure was a memory a lifetime we'll have, and now we'll have this recording to look back on too and kind of remember the hunt. But the one thing I really took away from it was I wish we'd have just been doing it sooner.
Oh yeah.
So if someone's listening to this that hasn't elk hunted, hadn't put camp on their back, hadn't tried to go out and to the mountains out west and do a hunt like this, what would you have to say to someone like that?
Prepare yourself. I mean, even.
But to do it?
Absolutely. Go do it.
Don't wait.
No, don't wait.
I wish we'd have been doing this for 20 years.
Absolutely. Don't wait. Get out there and do it. But prepare yourself, you know. Don't cut corners and think that you're going to go walk 4.5 miles, 5 miles in the mountains and not exercise months before.
Yeah.
I mean, you told me from day one when you asked me to go, and I said, absolutely, I'll go. You said, Dad, start exercising.
Yep.
Get your backpack on, get to walking. And, you know, the Texas heat prepared me for that hunt, too, because there was a lot of days that we went and walking when it was 100 degrees outside, and I was sweating my tail off, but we kept pushing ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then when we get up there, it's much cooler, but it's much steeper inclines and
terrain,
right.
for sure. The thing I want someone to take out of this story is that it's not too late to start.
Right.
But if you want to do it, do it. Like, don't wait. I
Right.
mean, the money we spent, even if we wouldn't have killed an elk, and I honestly mean this,
It was well worth it.
well worth it.
Absolutely.
Like, just the experience of camping by that lake, having the opportunity at that bull, like, if that had been the only opportunity we had, and we didn't get to hunt anymore because of your ankle, I would have rather had that trip with you than hunt by myself for 6-7 days and kill a bull by myself.
Right.
And not have you to at least pack it out, not have you have the experience of finding where the elk were.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's 90% of elk hunting, in my opinion, is figuring out where the elk are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we worked together like no other. I mean, and I was proud of you
Yeah.
on a lot of stuff that you noticed before I even noticed.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, I mean, it really worked out great the way we did it.
What another thing I want to take away that I'm just kind of realizing is that I've been on a couple elk hunts and known a little bit of elk behavior and activity and what they do and how they do it, but you were still teaching me things, new things, and I mean, you've never archery elk hunted like that.
No.
I mean, rifle elk hunted.
Oh, yeah. I've killed 3 bulls with a rifle, but I've never killed one with archery
But I
equipment.
mean, you taught me stuff while we were hunting archery elk that helps me with archery elk just because you're experienced in the woods and you being a woodsman and knowing your way around. I mean, if there was a contest for cleaning animals, I'd enter you, that's for sure. I mean, a butcher may get you, somebody that works at a butcher shop.
Yeah.
The average Joe out there, he's not keeping up.
No. I've probably cleaned a couple thousand animals in my life by now.
I would say so. Well, I look forward on going on another elk hunt eventually, or some type of mountain hunt, maybe a mule deer. I want to get a mountain goat eventually, but I definitely want to take our time and spend it together more on those kind of hunts because the memories are worth way more than any trophy or animal I could ever shoot or you, I would say.
I appreciate you saying that because I sure enjoyed that trip more than you'll ever know.
Well, I did too, and I appreciate you sitting down and talking about it, and we're going to share it to the rest of the world and see who wants to listen. But thanks for coming tonight, Dad, and sitting down and talking with me. I think this is something we'll be able to look back on for a long time and really enjoy that we did, just because it's something that we'll have forever. So,
well, absolutely. I love you, son.
Well, I appreciate y'all listening, and I hope the story was interesting and insightful. So we're going to release 4 more elk hunt episodes, and there'll be some information about that to follow. Thanks.